Veronica presents the AI Repertory Theatre's production of Neworld Papers. Book 1, The Historian's Tale, by K.B. Shaw. Chapter 6, Consequences.
Tears streaked Mrs. Greer's pale face, and her voice quavered.
The craft itself, Bedford, in pristine condition after all these centuries.
I wonder if it can still fly.
Fly? What are you talking about?
Remember this?
Mrs. Greer handed me some yellowed papers. It's the Solarist propaganda Dean Ambrose claimed I had.
Yes, papers like the ones Missy Howard gave him, so he'd bring you to the headmaster, and to me. Look it over as I explain. Those papers refer to a very important book that I have in my possession. The book claims to be the log of a craft that could fly among the stars. It was called the Interstellar Explorer Neworld.
I.e. Neworld, I said, tapping my finger on the drawing.
Yes, it came from another world called Earth and bore more than 5,000 people. It also brought the embryonic sources for almost all the plants and animals found on our island. The animals and plants down here in the basin are the true natives of Neworld.
Your discovery proves that the book is not a fiction, that it's not the product of some overwrought imagination. It is, in fact, the partial record of an incredible voyage and the beginning of life on Neworld.
Have you ever thought it odd that we count a person's age by annums and not cycles? And why is an annum only 2/3 of a cycle, 12 months instead of 18?
To be honest, I just accepted what I was taught. But now, everything I know may be a lie.
I wouldn't call it a lie. It's more of a fiction.
Ha ha!
So you get the irony, lad? So you appreciate the irony, lad?
To the service of today and the building of tomorrow. But there's no day before today.
The word for the day before today is yesterday. Another one of those words you won't find in the 1900s. And yes, lad, there is purposely no mention of yesterday in the code.
You see, a world without history can't question its past.
And the council hides all this from us? Bedford hesitated, as if searching for the answer.
We don't think the council knows the whole truth. Of course, they understand that the beliefs built around the fount, cons in the below of fiction. The council chambers look directly down the delta, for B's sake. They have a clear view of the basin, and the entire council spends high conjunction there.
However, we do believe that the original settlers kept their secrets so well that the full truth has been forgotten.
Then why kill McCrae? Why were we followed from the mount? Who was beating on your door?
Fear of the unknown. Knowledge is power, lad, you understand? The council feels threatened by any challenge to the belief system they foster and the code they enforce.
Mrs. Greer looked troubled.
And they are afraid of what we might know. You ask how all this got built. By whom? For what reason? The truth is, I rediscovered it, I should say, when I was a young girl. It's a story I will tell for the record at some point. We didn't build the tunnels that lead down from Neworld, or the way stations, or this facility. We don't have the tools. The people who had the ability to build a ship to the stars built all of these things.
But why?
Perhaps to give us a path home, if we want it. It's like they created a puzzle, a series of puzzles that we have to solve to earn the knowledge.
Your work is done then, Mrs. You found your truths. Mrs. Greer shook her head.
No, Fallon. Our work is just beginning. There are so many questions to be answered. What lands lie beyond the basin? Are there other people on this world? How do we journey to these lands? What about exploring the world below? Exploring the i.e. Neworld, getting it to fly?
Bedford grasped my arm.
What about returning to the stars?
Bedford and Mrs. Greer seemed preoccupied. After announcing that we would all head back to Neworld as soon as possible, they conferred in one of the small offices while the rest of us worked feverishly to stow the equipment and secure the observation base. "They're concerned about those back home," Toby told me as we manhandled the sphere into its dock. "Was it men from the council beating at the door?"
Give a little slack, Sean.
said Toby.
More! That's it, boyo!
He wiped his brow and motioned for me to hand him a fastening strap.
Sure enough, it was what you called the Dark Men.
If they don't know about all of this, why is the council so concerned?
They see the movement as a threat to the code, a threat to their beliefs,
said Sean, to their authority, their power. Bedford approached us, so I asked, Aiden, the people back home, they're all right, aren't they?
We don't know, lad. We need to get topside to find out. You lads done here?
One last strap.
Good. So head to the mess when you're done, get some food and suit up. We're all heading home, the entire observation base crew. The way stations are too small to handle the lot of us, so we'll be leaving in groups. I want the 3 of you with Mrs. Greer and me in the first group. Better step lively then. We leave in an hour.
We were fed, attired, and waiting by the observation base door before Mrs. Greer, Bedford, and the others arrived. We attached the short links of rope that would tie us together for the lightning run and were on our way. I was astonished by the sight that lay before me when we emerged from the mouth of the entrance tunnel. There was no lightning, and the wind was brisk at our backs, but not as strong as before. It was comfortable and clear. Clear! I could see the wind-swept rocky surface, studded with scrubby plant life that slanted away from the incessant wind. I heard a muffled sort of roaring behind us. I turned and my gaze was drawn skyward as I tried to comprehend the enormity of the towering column of moisture soaring into the heavens. The upper region of the fount plumed toward Neworld, where it would drop crippling snow for the next month or so.
You'll trip and fall if you don't watch where you're going,
said Toby, who anchored the tail end of our human chain. I pointed. He turned to look.
Bug-a-me!
He stopped dead in his tracks, sending a jolt up the line that almost brought the whole procession to our knees.
What the bloody bee, Toby?
Boomed Bedford from the front. By this time, everyone was gazing in wonderment at the fount.
It's only water vapor, not the cons of men. But its precious moisture truly brings life to Neworld.
Okay, lads and lassies, it's topside for us, which is this away,
said Bedford with a grand sweep of his arm.
We'll make good time with the wind to our backs.
A dark wall rose from the basin floor about 2 kilometers ahead, and its size and substance were revealed as we advanced. By the time we reached the first way station, the trees dominated our view. Soon we were in the forest. It had been a mysterious challenge to the mind when glimpsed through the dark mists, but now it was simply spectacular. The leafy canopy of yellow, green, and amber didn't start for maybe 100 meters above our heads, but the broad leaves, which were as long as 2 men are tall, were so thick that we soon needed to crank the light runs and our helmet lamps to make our way. We entered way stations only to sleep, preferring to take our rest periods and lunches out in the open. The crew took their lead from Mrs. Greer and Bedford, who were quiet and concerned. As we trekked on, I began to think about Neworld, about what would spur 5,000 people to bring countless plants and animals to this distant place. Were they forced to flee? That didn't seem right. It would take a lot of time and resources to prepare for such an epic venture. So was it a choice? Then why Neworld? Why this particular island rising from the bed of a vanished ocean? Why the code and the stories about the fount? My thoughts drifted back to the plants and animals. With a world as astounding as this, why would they bring so many types of plants and animals? To make Neworld more like home, probably. Which types are from Earth and which are native? Did the settlers kill off entire species of native life to make room for the new ones they brought? Then, what would be the consequences of this new truth? Would it, should it, change Neworld? What good would it do? We're happy living the way we live, aren't we? We're healthy, housed, and well-fed. Everyone has something to do, a place to be. What possible good could come of this new knowledge? Just as Bedford had said, with the winds to our back, we made better time on our return trip. The temperature dropped as we neared the base of Neworld. Snow didn't sift through the canopy of leaves, but there was frost on the ground, and the locking wheel on a metal hatch was stiff. It took both Sean and Toby to get it open. There didn't seem to be any bugs around, but the twins followed protocol and sprayed the antechamber before opening the inner door. Toby led the way as Sean hustled us in before securing the outer hatch, spraying again, then securing the inner door. The others seemed to know what to do, so I just tried to not get in the way and to mimic what they did. Mrs. Greer was keeping us focused on stowing the gear. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Bedford and the twins steal away and head up the stairs. I quickly shed my boots and outer garments, hoisted my pack over my shoulder, and took off after them. I could hear them talking some distance ahead of me. I couldn't make out the words, but by their tone of voice, I knew it wasn't idle conversation. When I reached the warehouse level, it was dark. I heard a faint tapping sound, then the whir of the static lights across the way, and I saw the three men silhouetted against the green glow of the lamps. I started to run. They turned and squinted into the darkness as they heard my footfalls. "It's me," I called.
Fallon, you needn't have.
"Maybe not, but I am here just the same." Bedford considered me a moment and was about to speak when I said, "Do you hear that?" We all listened.
No, what is it you hear?
An echo, maybe? From below? I cocked my ear. There it is again.
I heard it too that time. It was faint, but it wasn't an echo from the stairwell.
Again.
That direction.
Toby pointed to the left side of the darkened cavern.
You sure, Toby? From over there.
Positive.
Okay, you and Sean hurry up to the door. Look around, but don't try opening it before you come back and report to me. Be off with you now.
Bedford began to crank one of the large stand lights.
Fallon, crank up a few more, then follow me.
He raced to the far end of the warehouse, which became illuminated as he cranked up a light. The tapping was louder.
Help me with this.
He said as I approached. We put our backs to a shelf that stood against the wall. It creaked and groaned as we slid it across the stone floor. Behind it was a tunnel that dead-ended about 2 meters in. It was large enough for 2 grown men standing abreast to walk through comfortably. The tapping reverberated in the tunnel.
Find me a hammer or a metal rod or something, then crank a couple more lights on this end.
Not more than a few paces away was a tool bay with sledgehammers, pickaxes, and any manner of stoneworking tools. I grabbed a small hand tool with a hammerhead on one side and a pick claw on the other. I gave it to Bedford, then dragged a couple of stand lights closer to the tunnel and cranked them to maximum brightness. Bedford waited for a pause in the tapping before striking the end wall of the tunnel 3 times. Immediately, 3 taps replied. 2 taps. 2 taps in reply. Toby and Sean came racing across the cavern.
It's warm up there, really warm. The door's almost too hot to touch.
We think there's been a fire. Those dark bastards either broke in and took everyone,
Or they burned the house down around them.
This is not the time to speculate, lads. It's time to bust rock.
Bedford held up his hammer.
Fallon, did you find anything larger than this?
"This way," I said to the twins. In seconds, we were armed.
We only have less than a meter to penetrate.
He and Sean took the first turn at the wall. I retrieved a couple of shovels, so Toby and I could remove the rubble. The pick work was tiresome, so we took short shifts. Progress was slow, but it was progress. Toby and I were in the tunnel when Mrs. Greer and the others arrived from downstairs. They were approaching when Toby's strike sounded hollow. Then mine broke through. We stopped, took a step back, and stared at the rough circle of gaslight that shone through. The joyous noise of clapping and cheering met our ears. I turned toward Bedford with a broad smile, which faded when I saw Mrs. Greer weeping on his shoulder. Toby put his mouth to the hole and called out,
stand clear, we're coming through.
10 minutes later, we'd opened the wall almost to the size of the short tunnel. Addie stood in the front row of a group of about 30 people who waited on the other side. They were dressed as if for an early fall day, with sweaters or layered clothing. When Toby and I stepped through, Addie rushed forward, gave me a big hug and a kiss, and then ran to her grandmother in the cavern behind me, sobbing with joy. Ravenhair stepped through the throng. My heart pounded as she approached. She reached out her arms in welcome. I smiled. Then she embraced Bedford, who had come through the opening.
Lenore!
Said Bedford.
Father!
Said Ravenhair.
End of chapter 6. Next up, the siege.